through the end of September. And we wanted to give you guys some information that you could pass along and also to relay to your families to partake in this. What they've done is we've created a scavenger hunt map that's Denver Metro wide. And there's a challenge on here that if you visit 5 of the locations, at least 5, you log those locations on My Way to Go. And there's a list on the checklist on there that you can download. If you check that off and then submit that to Dr. Cog's My Way to Go, it's waytogo@drcog.org. You can see the link there on the slide. You're entered to win lots of prizes. Some of the prizes are like a Garmin watch. There's a Timbuktu biking bag and pat. So they've got some really cool prizes for you to win. You just need to visit, the link is there. It's biketoworkday.us at Summer Bike Challenge. And from there you can check out the map, download the scavenger hunt list, and look at the rules, the contest rules and regulations. And if you can go to the next slide, Kit. And this is an example of what the map looks like when you log on to the website. You see all the little black and white icons. If you click on those, it pulls up a little sidebar screen that you can see what you're trying to find on the scavenger hunt, and then you can click in to go details on how to find it. We worked through all the TMAs throughout the metro area to come up with some scavenger hunts. You can see that there's some like up in Longmont and Brighton and Boulder and all across the Denver metro area. So it's a good way to get you and the family out to find out some stuff about the Denver metro area that people didn't really know about. So that's all I have.
Awesome, thank you. So does anybody have any questions or comments for the Smart Commute team for their amazing videos or Bike to Work Day or the challenge?
Hey, this is Greg in Brighton. I just wanted to quickly comment. We still did a Bike to Work Day yesterday, had a booth set up for people that wanted to come get breakfast burritos. So it still happened in some communities.
Nice. Yeah, I saw that. We reposted it on social media, so hopefully you guys had a good turnout.
Great. Well, those videos were fantastic, guys. And I did see that you put the links in the chat. So if anybody is looking for those videos and want to share them with larger groups, please do so. That would be encouraged. So thank you so much. Anything else from the Smart Commute team?
That's all. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Karen. All right, so we are going to jump into RTD Director's Update. So we have a couple bullet points underneath this agenda item. First off, we want, of course, to hear about any inline updates. We also have a FISA letter response from Paul. And then we wanted to discuss the RTD Accountability Committee update. So directors, we have, I see Vince on, I saw Troy on. Let's see, I thought I saw somebody else as well, sorry. Anyway, so
this is Judy Lubow. I don't know.
There you go. I thought I saw Judy. I was like, I thought her name popped up eventually. There's a lot of people on this call. So directors, how do you want to start off? And Lynn as well, thank you.
This is Vince. I'll start off with the inline update, I suppose. You all may have heard that we have finally announced an opening date for the N-Line, and that is September 21st of 2020. It will be put into what we call revenue service. That means you can ride it and all that. More will follow on this in terms of whether there's going to be, some free time riding and whether there's going to be some celebrations and things like that. But I think it's important to note that our general manager and senior leadership team, Henry Stoppelkamp, I believe, is on here today. We're instrumental in really getting this thing going, along with our chair, Angie Rivera-Malpiedi. A bunch of you went with us on Valentine's Day on a tour of the N-Line and could see firsthand the issues that RTD had been dealing with the contractor not doing their work. And our chair, our general manager, and our senior leadership team worked aggressively with the contractor and got them to step up and do what they needed to do. And now we have an opening date. In terms of construction, I think all we have left are some really basically punch list items, nothing major. If the line were to open today, I think we could probably get people on and off and have no problems. But so we've got a few more things to do there. Testing is going very well. The PUC is pleased. There's a couple crossings I understand that are still off a little bit, and when I say off, we're talking 3 to 5 seconds off in timing. And I believe, Henry, if you're there, that's without any kinds of waivers from the crossing times. But everything's going really well, and looking forward to opening, and we'll have more info on whether there's going to be ribbon cutting or a celebration or something. We've waited for this for a very long time, and really thrilled to have that happen.
Agreed. Do we have any specific questions anybody has for Nline? Okay, I do see one hand raised. Adam?
Hi, yeah, it's Adam Cushing from Brighton. I keep asking this question. I'm not sure if there's an answer yet, but there's a lot of service changes happening when the Nline opens. In Brighton, specifically, our RX service is changing, and we have a new 520 route. And we're just hoping at some point to hear if that's still going to happen in September or if that's been affected by COVID. Thank you.
Julie, this is Troy Whitmore. Adam, I have been in contact with Jesse Carter in regard to your question, getting a little more complete answers. I played telephone touch yesterday, and I should be able to, either Jesse and I will get back to you today. I owe him a call back, but and perhaps Henry or anybody else on the call can confirm, but I believe the bus service change is going to happen on Sunday the 20th, and so it'll be 24 hours or 18 hours ahead of the inline opening. And I don't believe there's been radical changes to the proposed routes for the north area. Well, there has been changes, obviously, but no changes from what we had given out to the public, late last year. But I certainly welcome if any of the other staff is on the call to be corrected. But yeah, we should get that out, and we need to get that out to the other cities in the inline corridor as well. So appreciate your patience, Adam.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. Yeah, and then just the schedule, if it's still going to run on the weekends, because I know some of the routes aren't running on the weekends because of the COVID situation.
Yeah,
so
good point.
Thank you for looking into that. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's overdue, so my apologies. Thanks, Julie.
Oh, thank you. Any other questions regarding Nline? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Okay, so let's move on to the FISA letter response from Paul.
So, Madam Chair, I don't know if you want the directors to address it. I don't believe Paul is on the line, and it's his letter. So I can just talk generally about the FISA, and as people probably know, the FISA is the Fast Tracks Internal Savings Account. Was originally designed to take any kind of monetary savings RTD recognizes from other areas and put it into a savings account to be used for unfinished fast tracks corridors. There has been talk on and off about using the FISA to help us with our budget shortfalls, and we're experiencing a lot of that now. There are a number of us on the board, many of us are on the line right now, who think that the FISA should not be used for that purpose. Some of our board members say there should be no sacrificial cows and everything is open for use in these difficult times. I think a number of us disagree with that and think that perhaps this should be the sacrifice. This should be the cow that we don't sacrifice. But anyway, so far the budget projections that we've seen do not well, some include looking at FISA and some include not looking at FISA. And obviously there's a difference. There's about $103 million in the FISA now. So a decision, as far as I know, hasn't been made to use the FISA as we move forward. I guess all I can say is that there are a number of us on the board that don't want it used, and I think there are some that think it's fair game.
Thank you. This is Judy.
Go ahead, Judy.
Yeah, we're projected to have really extensive budget shortfalls in the next couple of years. And it's very clear to me that everything is going to be open for discussion in terms of potential sources of funding. So we are definitely going to be having a discussion about FISA. I mean, this issue is not going to be going away. So thank you for your input, and keep giving us input because this issue is really going to be up front. Thank you.
All right, I have a question from Liz.
Thank you, Julie. So I would just encourage the board members to continue to keep the FISA account for its intended purpose. There's a lot of us in Broomfield who are really sick of paying for everybody else to get to ride everything else. So I certainly understand the budget shortfalls, but in the bigger picture, in the long-term commitments that have been made, Broomfield doesn't want to get shorted again. And that's what this would feel like to me at any rate. So Vince, I certainly appreciate your stance, and I hope that you can hold firm because we send an awful lot of money to RTD and to Fast Tracks in particular, and someday we'd sure like to realize what was promised to us. So thank you.
I think the governor supports your position as well, Liz.
So this is Joan Peck from Longmont, and I would just like to second to that Liz's position. I feel that the same thing, that we have put a lot of money into it, but not only that, I think this going to FISA to cover shortfalls is historically what RTD has always done because it's the easiest path of resistance for them. And we need to do a better job of looking at other funding, potential funding sources. So I just wanted to throw my voice in there that I totally agree with you. Thanks.
This is Judy. I want to thank everybody's comments because it helps us stay strong.
Thank you, guys. We really appreciate your efforts to continue to preserve that for us. And I know it's, going into the fiscal implications of the next couple of years are going to be tough, but thank you so much for continuing that fight. We really appreciate having directors that are hearing us and our concerns on this particular issue. Do we have any other questions for the directors on or comments that people would like to send regarding FISA? All right.
Julie, I might say that we'll monitor this, and anytime they have a budget discussion that's open to the public, we'll make sure someone from NATA or several people from NATA join in on that discussion to keep reinforcing position.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that that's important. So thanks. And if there are those opportunities, we'll definitely share with this group so that you have the ability to go down and express your concerns and share your perspectives, because we all know how valuable that is when you get that kind of feedback to the board. All right. With that topic closed, I'm going to move on to the RTD Accountability Committee update. And one of the things, I don't know who's going to be speaking on this particular point, but if you could provide a good background for the group, I just want to make sure that everyone on this call has a good understanding of how this committee came to be, and then, of course, what are some of the outcomes that we're hoping to expect. So
I think that This is Lynn Geisinger, and I would just add my voice on the FISA that I agree with where Judy Lubau and Vince and Troy are, and appreciate your comments. And I think some of us have also been pushing, if we're going to take the FISA, that leadership, and we need to go out and talk to NATA and the 36 MCC as part of the process. So hopefully that would happen. I am chairing the Communications and Government Relations Committee, and as part of that, I deal with a lot with the legislature. Troy Whitmore is the vice chair, so jump in if you have something to add. The initial news was that Senate Bill 151 was going through hearings through the first part of the legislature. When the legislature came back, it got put aside. It had some really terrible provisions, as many of you know, in my opinion, that made it easier to sue RTD and other things. And when it got put aside, Speaker Becker gave Representative Gray the authority to file a late bill that just dealt with the Accountability Committee that was part of SB 151. And working with Angie and Angie Rivera-Malpiedi, our chair, and other members of the board, we decided to be proactive about it. And we were hoping to appoint a committee. We ended up working with Representative Gray and Faith Winter and the governor's office, mostly David Oppenheim, to craft a committee that is completely independent. I'm sort of realizing now that it's probably, the proposal is not posted anywhere other than in the board agendas. So maybe I can get that posted on the RTD website. But basically, it's a committee of 11 people that the governor will appoint 5. The transportation chairs, Senator Winter and Representative Gray, will appoint 6. And there's well, there are actually almost kind of a couple of scopes of work in here, things they can consider and things that they should look at. Those include, spending of the CARES Act money, and it looks like I picked up an old version, but basically it's looking at paratransit services and compliance. It's looking at the district's partnerships with local governments. It's looking at our finances. And just to put a point on the earlier conversation, the projection right now is that in 2021 we would be down somewhere around $230 to $250 million. We have started. The board looked at those numbers and said, yes, we have to assume the worst case. That is the worst case based on the lead school projections. So a lot of cost cutting is starting, and staff is looking at sort of trying to take an overall view at what sort of steps need to be taken. But that's just background for the Accountability Committee. The committee will be looking at those things, at the financials, at our human resources, equity, social equity, geographic equity, a review of a state audit that's being done, and sort of just a general organizational assessment. When they had a press conference last week with Governor Polis and Matt Gray, Faith Winter, and our chair, Angie Rivera-Malpiedi, Governor Polis also made it clear that Northwest Rail is, it's certainly been a high priority for him, and that should be also in the mix for this committee, and I guess more broadly, the unfinished corridors. The important piece that's happening right now that I think you'll be talking about today, I believe, and is good to keep in mind, is that the membership will be appointed by July 15th is the plan. The group will meet by July 31st and will continue for a year unless they believe they need to continue after that. So the governor is appointing, well, there'll be 4 local government representatives, and my understanding, and I think this is maybe on the discussion, is that NATA and the Northwest Corridor 36 MCC have been asked to come up with one. The governor will be appointing someone with financial planning expertise, someone with transportation equity expertise, urban planning expertise, economic development expertise, and one of the local government reps. The chairs will be appointing people with expertise in riders with disabilities, human resources, transit services or multimodal, and then 3 of the local government representatives. This will be hosted, it's been approved now, so I can say it, at Dr. Cog, and it's being funded by RTD. We put a cap of 200,000 on it, and then we'll go back. If they need more, the parties will go back and look for other funding. In addition to the local government expertise, I guess what I would say is, all of those people have to come from somewhere. So if you have good people in mind to fit those other descriptions, I think now is the time to bring them forward. There is I'll try to get this to, I guess, to Karen, but Senator Winter tweeted and Representative Gray retweeted, and so did I, an application form, basically. It's on a website. And so I'll get that, if that's okay, I'll get that to you, Karen. And if you know of people that would be interested, or you are interested, that would be a good place to start. Happy to answer questions if there are any.
Okay, so I did put that Google form in the chat.
Okay.
And that is for those folks who are interested in being part of the RTD Accountability Board. So definitely check that out if needed. So I want to move to questions. Does anybody have any questions or points of clarification for the RTD Accountability Proposal?
This is Judy. I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, please.
One, I want to do a shout out to Lynn Geisinger for doing an incredible job shepherding this thing. I also want to say that there are quite a few of us on the board who are very excited about this accountability committee, that it's a chance for the whole region to come together and analyze what's going on with RTD and make some recommendations for positive changes. I'm very excited about it. So I look at this as a great opportunity. I hope you guys will too. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Judy. I do have a hand raised by Liz.
I guess I'm just full of questions today, so there you go.
Go for it.
I have a couple of them, I think. First of all, it seems to me that there's a reasonable possibility that this committee is going to come up with some fairly dramatic recommendations, drastic recommendations, given that RTD is, at least from Broomfield's point of view, has some drastic changes needed. So is the governor, first question is the governor and the legislature really interested in change, or is this kind of one of those committees that just does the work, issues a report, and then there's dust gathering? So that's my first question. My second question is, should we as a body, rather than soliciting everyone, whoever wants to be on this, should we as a body come together and winnow things down and put our preference out there so that we have who we want on the committee? So first question is the governor and the legislature committed to listening to this committee? Second question is, should we go ahead and take some time to figure out who we want on this committee and back that person or people?
I'll take on the first one and leave it to the team to answer the second. There's actually a trigger in there that when the recommendations come out, the board has 45 days in which to adopt the recommendations or to issue a statement as to why they are not adopting the recommendations. And as I said before, there's been a lot of talk and action recently on legislation. So I think that the recommendations coming out of this will be taken very seriously. And the recommendations they go to the board, they go to the governor, the General Assembly. They have to have a public hearing on them. There'll be a draft report in December and a final report in July. So that will be an open process.
Very good. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And Liz, I'll try and take a stab at actually your second question. So I've definitely been in conversation with Faith about how this process is going to be moving forward. And they do want to make sure that we have at least one representative from the North. And so you could see number 6 on our agenda item is actually going to talk about who is that person, and do we want to make a nomination as a group? There are several people who have put their name into the hat, but what we wanted to do today is also open the floor for other people who want to nominate themselves or others who would like to be considered for this northern seat, if you will. So that's the plan for today. And we could definitely move to having those folks speak to this group about why they want to be on this accountability committee. I do want to just take a quick second still. Are there any other clarifying questions or concerns that we have with the accountability committee before we move on to the discussion on nominating who might be that individual who represents us?
So this is Joan. I do have a question about the committee. And it is to go further with what Liz was talking about. Once the directors adopt the agenda that the nominating committee, the accountability committee comes up with, does that accountability committee go away after a year? Who's going to make sure that the directors and the staff actually follow, even though it's been adopted, those recommendations? Is that accountability committee going to then review either on a quarterly or yearly basis what has been happening with financing, with hiring procedures, whatever it is they come up with? And that is my concern, that it does just go to dust and nobody holds anybody's feet to the ground to follow the recommendations.
You know, that's a very good question and one I hadn't thought specifically about, but the accountability committee has the capacity to keep itself going if it thinks that's necessary. I also think, you know, with the response to the transportation committees, we have to report to the transportation committees. It's usually the TLRC, but every year. And I would say that the chairs, that Representative Gray and Senator Winter, have been very interested in this, and I believe that would probably be where the follow-up is most happening. But it's a good question.
Thank you, Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions that we have for Lynn or the directors before we move on to this discussion of nominations? If I'm not seeing you jump in, I'm not seeing anybody. Okay, so this was a discussion that we had at SPC last Friday, because again, we really want to make sure that we have folks who are interested in this board have the ability to essentially, plead their case, right? Why would you want to be on the accountability committee, and then and share that with this group? So what I'm going to do is I do have a list of folks who I've heard through the grapevine are interested in this position. I have Herb Atchison, I have Pat Quinn, Ashley Stoltzman, myself, and Anita Seitz. What I want to do for a second is, if there are others who are interested in being the representative and would like to add your name to the list, please speak now so that we could consider you along with all the others I just spoke to. And if I missed anybody, please let me know.
So Julie, am I on that list or not? I can't.
I don't have you currently on my little Post-it, but if you'd like to be on my Post-it, please. Do you want to speak, Joan, about why you want to be a representative?
Yes, I actually do. And I have to say that I'm as biased on my view of what RTD should do as anyone else who wants to be on the committee, I'm sure. But my concern is that, first of all, it is about fast tracks in the unfinished corridor. And I want to make sure that the people who are on this accountability committee aren't the same people who have been on every other committee, for example, Commuting Solutions, MCC, etc. At the MCC meeting, I heard that the decision was, and Herb, whoever was on that committee, Herb was there, I think, that they decided that only mayors and commissioners should be on the committee from their nomination point of view. I kind of disagree with that, in that there are a lot of people who are elected officials who have been very involved with RTD and the Transportation Committee. One of my concerns is that if there is not somebody there who is really an advocate, a strong advocate for fast tracks, we're not going to be able to have a strong voice going forward. Every organization, it took about 3.5 years to get everybody on board with peak service and finishing the Northwest Corridor, as well as the other 3 corridors. So we have, ending this year, is the 1% rubber tire service that is expiring in 2020, which means that the Fast Tracks Fund will be able to have more money put into it, because this fund is going to expire this year. If the accountability committee thinks that because of the bus operations, they don't need that fund to expire and they want to extend it, I think that's a problem if we don't have a big, very strong advocate for that. So that is my bias, I guess, and my advocacy for finishing what our vote was in 2004. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think this is also kind of a legal matter, since it was a vote that it isn't something RTD or anybody on the accountability committee can just push aside and say, we don't want it, we don't believe in it, etc. It is not really up to one organization or one committee to just say, we don't need to work on that. I personally believe that if the accountability committee does a deep dive into every part of RTD, we can have a robust Fast Tracks Fund as well as a bus operation fund. So that's it. That's my spiel.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Joan. I appreciate that. Okay, so I do have other folks, I think, who want to speak to this group. I'm actually going to go to Herb Atchison, please. It's the floor. You got the floor.
Hi, Julie.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Well, I think somewhat there was a decision by the MCC yesterday to bring forward 2 mayors, both Pat and myself, because we have an interest from both the NATA and the MCC side, which makes sense. Right now, based upon the projections that we have from RTD, the Northwest Corridor rail will be the last piece left. Joan's correct. The state law passed in 2004 does not give anybody the option of taking it out, but it also doesn't require them to complete it. That's why we have a 2050 date right now. And with the situation we're in with RTD and the economy today, that's in jeopardy. But I think you can go back to Lynn Geisinger's comments about making sure we've got somebody that can work. I think in my past time with the NATA group, I've served in every chair position or every executive position. I've served on every executive position at Dr. Cog. I'm a member, just like Pat, of the 36th group. I'm on the Mayor's Transportation Group from Metro Mayors, and I'm also on the Governor's Task Force for Education and Transportation. So I think in the time that I've been around, I spent more time at the Capitol working on transportation than anybody else sitting currently on either the RTD board, I'm sorry, RTD, but NATA and Metro North. The issue is whether or not you're going to sustain trying to work on transportation. I was the author of the letter that all of the mayors from Adams County signed to the 2 contractors with concurrence from RTD to try to force something to happen with the completion of the inline. Now, although we were rejected by the two contractors to meet with us, from my understanding from Angie, the chair, and at that time, Dave Genova, was that the letter had an effect on helping to get them back to the table to working with RTD to get the inline complete. But there's a lot of activity that's going on, and there's going to have to be someone who can go down and work with the group, because as Lynn and others have talked about, the committee is a recommending committee. We don't have authority to do anything. And if you don't have a working relationship with all these groups, the ability to get anything done is going to be very questionable. The follow-up does go back to, as Lynn pointed out, the RTD board has to report out to the two transportation groups on what activities they're doing based upon the recommendations of the advisory committee. That's the only place there's any emphasis of holding them accountable. But as Lynn can tell you this, if we don't get a majority of the board online to work with the group, there's just going to be a stalemate. Now, there are going to be people on the board who are not going to want to do what the accountability committee says, and there will be those who will. But I think the group that's on this call right now from the RTD board are the group that typically has been most responsive to what's going on to the north end. Even though 3 of them are new to the board, we've had more work being done on the north end because of the relationship we have with those 3 new members plus Judy to try to get things changed. But I think my background and my experience and what I have shown is my ability to work with these groups, but also my commitment to work on it is what I bring to the table. And I would recommend that you look at that, but I also recommend strongly you look at everybody who said that their name is in the hat, because each one's going to bring their own background and experience.
All right. Thank you, Herb. We appreciate your perspective and, of course, all of the hard work that you've done for so long to advocate for transportation in the north. So thank you so much. I'm going to move on to Patrick Quinn.
Thank you, Julie. I think I've met most of you, but I'm Pat Quinn. I'm the mayor of Broomfield. I was elected in 2019. I was also mayor of Broomfield between 2007 and 2013. And during that period, the Great Recession of 2008 hit, and it was clear to everybody in the north area of town that the RTD couldn't meet its commitments under the 2004 task force or the fast tracks. And so the Metro Mayor's Caucus, along with RTD, formed a task force that I was part of in 2010, 2011. And through that period, it became very clear to me that that the governance and the financing of RTD needed to be looked at. And this accountability committee has been something I've been advocating for, for some time. It is significant that that the North area is only going to get one representative, and that one representative, needs to represent the interests of I-25 and 36 and Highway 7 and Longmont Rail, to say the least. And that's one of the reasons why I'm putting my name forward, because Broomfield is, we do share I-25, we do share Highway 7, we do share 287 and the bus rapid transit, and all these issues are near and dear, as Liz would agree, to the city and county of Broomfield. I'd also point out to everybody that that I am a CPA, I am a CFO. When I look at what the committee shall do, a review of recent financial statements, a determination of the wrong range financial stability, those are things I've done in my career. Those are things that I've done for Broomfield when we faced the Great Recession. And I guess I'll close, because I'll try to respect the 2 minutes, by simply saying that I'm a consensus builder, and my commitment to both US 36, MCC, and to NATA is first of all, my phone number is 303-623-1580. And my email is pquinn@broomfieldcitycouncil.org. Everybody knows me, knows that I'm obsessive about returning calls. I'll show up at NATA once a month. I'll show up at US 36. I view this as serving the entire North region. I will work hard to get consensus on the North region to the extent that that's feasible. I want to close, and I'm over 2 minutes out, by thanking the RTD directors that are on the call right now, because they are all 4 change agents. I know that this has got to be a little bit tough on them, but I know they're advocating for this, and the goal is they have RTD, serve our needs in the future. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much. Awesome. All right, so I do have, Steve did post something in the chat. Can the mayors please include the county commissioners in future discussions and letters on matters like Herb described? So I'm not sure if that requires a response, but just a request from Commissioner O'Dorisio. So next up, actually, you know what? Let's move to Anita's. Well, is Ashley Stoltzman on the phone?
We didn't invite Ashley since she's not a member of NATA.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, thank you. And then let's see, Anita Seitz.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm Anita Seitz. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem for Westminster. I am new as a representative for NATA, but I have served on Westminster City Council since December of 2013. And even though I've been on almost 7 years, I am actually in the first year of my second term. I was appointed first. I think that's relevant because of some of the questions that were asked earlier by Councillor Peck. I think it is important. This accountability committee is a huge opportunity to really assist RTD to provide the types of public value that our taxpayers expect and that they need in this service. And I do think it's important to have someone who's going to serve that can make sure that we're making the fidelity of the recommendations are held. And so I think I do offer that as I have plenty of time left in my term. I think this region benefits from an abundance of riches and leadership. I'm really impressed with the quality and caliber of folks that have put their hat in the ring, and I think we'll be well served. You know, my ultimate goal is that the accountability committee is successful in helping RTD. And so while I would like to take a moment to explain why I think I have something to offer, I am a collaborative and consensus person, and I'll get behind you know, whoever will help the region. First off, I want to talk about the benefit of a fresh voice and new blood. I think we have already seen the dramatic benefit of having new RTD board members. We've seen how they've changed the conversation and be able to really advocate for our region. And so I would like to continue to give them the credibility, the leverage, and support they need through the recommendations of the Accountability Committee. I'd like to give just real quick some background on myself. My background is in business management. I do have an MBA. I was a vice president prior. I'm now a director of business development. I'm fluent in HR and recruitment. I used to be an employee benefits consultant. That's where I was the vice president. I also was a recruiter. I think those skills might be helpful with some of the issues that RTD is facing. Additionally, my father was an amputee, so I understand the needs of the disability community when it comes to transit. Oftentimes, transit isn't a choice, it's a necessity. So I think I can have some level of sensitivity and background that will inform that portion of the discussion. I have a lot of experience, maybe not specifically in transit regionally, but I have served for many years as a CML Policy Committee representative. I am, in addition to Steve O'Dorisio, I'm on the Metro Basin Roundtable. I'm one of the few elected officials there. That is a very technical group, and I've been able to pull my weight and stay informed in that. I'm a quick learner. I've also served on the American Planning Association for Colorado as their elected official representative. I really believe that good planning makes good communities, and wanting to make sure that I understand that and help educate other elected officials as to our role with planning, and that includes transportation and transit planning. I am the alternate for the US 36 MCC, and I would note that Joan was correct. While all of our meetings have been open to alternates, the meeting yesterday was solely for mayors and commissioners, and alternates were not invited to participate. I am also the past president for CC4CA, and CC4CA is a group that works on climate action for local governments. During my term, we passed historic legislation in Colorado. So we lobbied at the state legislature, we lobbied at the PUC and the AQCC, and had quite a bit of success. What's really amazing is that group is very diverse, and we have a unanimous policy agenda. So really understand how to actively listen, collaborate, and get to a place where everyone is comfortable. I really am a collaborative choice, and I believe in systems thinking. So my real goal for this committee is I don't want it to get parochial in nature, only looking after the interests of one community or one small portion of the segment. I think transit works best when we think of it as a system. So that was very long, but I hope you'll at least consider me. And if not, I hope some of these values will be considered when looking at other candidates. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anita. Are there any other folks who'd like to speak or nominate themselves or someone else to this potential role? Okay, I'm not seeing any others. And so I will conclude with, I guess, my proposal. So I'm probably one of the youngest electeds in this group. I was elected in 2017 to the North Clinton City Council. And it's something, one of the reasons why I ran was because I wanted to be a voice for my community. When I started attending NATA meetings and DRCOG meetings, I realized that that same mission expanded to my region. So I was born and raised in Adams County, off of 84th and Welby, actually. And for a period of my time, we did just depend on public transit. And so having that experience and being an individual who really wants to see the benefits to the region, I feel like that is one of the reasons why I could be a good candidate for this. I am all about collaboration, and being the chair this year has really helped me understand how important it is that everybody has a voice when it comes to the impacts that we have transit-wise in our communities. So when I hear from Joan about some of the concerns that they have in Longmont, or some concerns that we hear in Broomfield, in Commerce City, and Brighton, I think it's really important that the individual who represents us represents all of us and represents you know, all of the needs and hopes that we have for our communities. I am very passionate about equity. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that drives me to seek change throughout the RTD district, is not only access equity, but also accessibility. And how are we really meeting the needs of the community members who rely on RTD every day to go to school, go to work, go to the grocery store. I think that that is really the perspective that we need to remember when we move forward here. All of this work, all of the determination that this group has put in to seeing an RTD that serves all of us is for our residents. It's for those who need it most. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really passionate about the accountability committee, because I really feel like it's giving our residents, those who rely on RTD every single day to live their lives, an opportunity to have a voice at the table. And I think that our representative should have that. They should be that voice, not only for our cities, but specifically for those residents. So whenever I'm looking at any type of policy change, or any way that I could be a voice for those people that I have to, you know, walk by when I'm walking my dog, or any of my other neighbors, that's what I'm thinking about. And those are the people that I want to serve. So yes, I'm probably one of the least experienced people on this board, but to be honest with you, I am actually very excited about the number of people who've come forward. I'm excited about just the ability to continue to work in this environment with the giants that have come before me. And if anything, my hope is that I could contribute in some way and continue to pull the torch and continue to keep that tradition alive up here in the North, because we have so many amazing folks who have dedicated their work to this. And honestly, I want to be part of that. And I'm hoping that you would consider me for that as well. So I think, the conclusion of the nominations. Moving forward, I am going to just kind of throw out to the group about what are some initial thoughts and how is it that this group wants to move forward with potentially creating somewhat of like a NATA nominee. I think what's important is that we consider all the candidates that spoke today, but we have to realize that we're not the ones who are appointing this. But I believe that if we come to a consensus, it actually could help Senator Winter and Representative Gray really perhaps come down to a decision on who they're going to support. So I think that any discussion people would like to move forward. I see that Karen would like to, has a suggestion for us to how to move forward.
Thank you, Julie. So one of the things we have to remember is if we are making a nomination, if we agree that we're going to do that, that the voting is only allowed by NATA reps. And that would mean there is 14 votes out there. Each of the jurisdictions gets one vote. So if the rep and the alternate are both here from one jurisdiction, only one of those can vote. The voters, the voting jurisdictions are Adams County, Brighton, Broomfield, Commerce City, Dacono, Erie, Federal Heights, Firestone, Frederick, Longmont, North Glen, Thornton, Westminster, and Adams County Economic Regional Partnership. Those are the ones that can vote. Catherine is putting together a quick survey monkey, and I'm hoping she'll have that up here in a minute with all of these nominated names on there. If that works for you, Chair, we could have people vote on that survey monkey for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nominations that we have so far for this. And that's my suggestion of moving forward if in fact NATA wants to make a nomination. The other alternative is you can put forth all 5 names to Faith and Matt. My understanding is that Faith and Matt would like to have Governor Polis make his announcements first, his appointments first, and then use ours after that. So that's what I have to offer.
All right, great. And Anita did put in the chat ranked choice voting. Is that possible in the form?
So I have
creating or the survey?
I just created a survey on the fly here. So I have the 5 nominees. It will present randomly to each person, so there won't be a repetitive first person. And I will be able to determine the percentage of each vote. Again, to reiterate what Karen said, we do need just the native representative to vote so that we don't have multiple votes, because there won't be a way for me to determine if 2 votes came in from one jurisdiction. So I believe that we need to be on the honor system for that in order to keep this anonymous.
Okay.
So I can put that in the chat link here, and I'll send it to Karen in case there's someone on the phone that doesn't have access to chat right now.
Okay, thank you. So one thing I want to do, please access the SurveyMonkey. It was just put it in the chat. But are there any questions, comments that anybody has on the phone or on this call that they'd like to bring forward or discuss?
Yeah, this is Steve Odorizio. Is it possible to do ranked choice voting? I think that's a valid and a good question. Is it possible? That's different than being able to rank the selection if everyone got to choose one choice. Ranked choice voting means you've got your ranking and you assign like points to the level of ranking.
Okay. Well, and what it seems like is this monkey survey, hold on, I guess I should open it, is really just a percentage of the votes. So if we want to do ranked choice voting, we might have to come up with a different form and send it out to this group at a later date. Does anyone?
Or you could just simply pick your ranked choices into a direct chat to one person like Karen, and then they can assign the points. So if your first choice, everybody's first choice is 5 points, everybody's second choice is 4, and it goes down. And we have a choice of 5, and then they can just tally it up.
Okay.
Julie, this is Liz Law Evans. I have a comment on that.
Okay, please.
Thank you. So I have no opinion on whether or not we should do ranked choice voting in the future, but I think that today, for simplicity's sake and whatnot, we should consider just doing the SurveyMonkey rather than ranked choice voting. If we want to do ranked choice voting, I think that that's a discussion on its own. And my guess is we've got bylaws that talk about this, and we need to go and look at what our bylaws currently say our voting should be like and whether or not we want to change as a body. But at this point in time, I don't think we have, I'm not in favor of doing ranked choice today.
All right, I just added a ranked choice as the second question. If anyone has already submitted the survey, it will not let them resubmit, but I can change the default settings to allow, oh, wait, no, I can't do that because I won't be able to isolate. So if you already voted, I'm sorry, but we can collect the data. I think that that's a good point, that it might be something that we're not able to do in our bylaws, but it looks like I was able to accommodate that on the fly. So you can vote both ways, and I'll present that data, I guess, to Chair Mullica.
Actually, this is Steve Odorizio again. I'm on my phone, so I didn't get a choice or a chance to participate in the voting yet. That's one of the reasons why I thought it would be easier the other way. In fact, why don't we vote first on the method of voting,
No,
and then move next?
I'm sorry, this is Karen. That is not included in our bylaws. That's not how we make decisions in our bylaws. If you want to do ranked choice voting, that means everybody votes for 5 candidates, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We do not have the mechanism through this Zoom meeting to do that. If you want to do that, you'll need to ask NATA to make that change. And then do it and bring that choice forward at another time. The bylaws say that we vote by majority, and there is no accommodation for ranked choice voting. If that's something you want to do, Chair Mullica, I think you've got to ask the group if you've got a majority for that, and then I think we have to come back, because I think doing this on the fly is certainly not good policy.
Okay. Yeah, well, and I agree that we should follow our current bylaws that we have. And if that's something that we want to change moving forward, then we could have that discussion at a later date. So in the SurveyMonkey that you do have, that you have a link to, if possible, please just answer question 1, which is please choose your nomination. You get to choose 1 candidate. Steve, if you're not able, or if anyone else is not able to access the SurveyMonkey at this time, please privately chat Karen or the Smart Commute Metro North to tally your results in that way. Does that sound like a good process moving forward from everyone? Okay, I see a couple heads shaking, so let's go with that. Liz, did you have another question or concern? I see that your hand's up. Okay, it's off. All right, great. All right, so everyone submit your votes if you can. And then we're looking for a total of 14 votes here, if possible.
Hey, Julie, this is Joyce.
Yes, Joyce.
I just want to note that Smart Commute has a vote in this, that we're at the table.
Okay.
All righty.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And our representative from Smart Commute is Joyce.
It's Joyce, yes. Great. So as we wait, I think, you know, one of the things that I'm just really excited about is this opportunity. This is something that we've talked about for a very long time about having an accountability committee. So I just want to recognize and thank everybody, Lynn, the directors, everybody who's worked to really make this happen. And I really hope that we have some great results that come out of it. I think regardless, whoever NATA chooses today is going to be a fantastic representative for the North. So I am not even worried about that at all. I'm just really excited of this opportunity of how we get to move forward and really serve our communities better through this accountability committee. All right, are we still waiting on results?
I have 10 votes currently in. I don't know what would be the tipping point to determine a winner. They're pretty close right now, but there is someone that's in the lead, but it's not by very much.
Okay.
So it's
So
your call.
Catherine, there are a couple of communities that I don't think are at NATA today. I don't think Dacono's there. I don't know about Frederick or Firestone. If you're from Frederick or Firestone, can you identify yourself as being here? And the town of Erie, do we have someone from the town of Erie? I'm not sure we do. And if you'll just identify in the chat room that you're here from Frederick, Firestone, Dacono, or Erie, then we'll know how many votes are left out there. So with Smart Commute, 15 votes are possible. And it sounds like we have 10 votes in so far. And Steve, did you manage to, okay, Erie is here and they've voted.
Thank you.
Steve, did you get a chance to vote?
Yes. Because I have a small screen on my phone, I realized it's not a poll, it's on the link. So I found it. Thank you very much. And thank you all for and thanks for clarifying the bylaws. I didn't know if it was a choice or not. And when you guys clarified it's not a choice, I appreciate it. Thanks. Sorry to go down that rabbit hole.
Okay, so it looks like we don't have anyone from Dacono, Frederick, or Firestone. So that would give us 12 votes. Do you have 12 votes, Catherine?
I have 10. And
okay.
Deb, are you still on from ACREP?
Yes.
Yeah, so you would vote for, if Bo's not on, you would vote for ACREP.
I voted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
and we might have had someone vote that oh yeah, we definitely, okay, so there was someone that should not have voted that voted, and actually that leaves us with a tie right now. Okay. And we still have 10 votes. So if you want, we can move on to the agenda and I'll just monitor and let you know if there's another vote that comes in, and I'll keep putting in reminders in the chat.
Let's do that. And so we only have, oh no, we still have time. We are going to have to move through some of these other discussions quickly. Do we want to move on to the master priority projects list?
Yes, please. Julie, if you don't mind, I'll quickly go through this. So we have a master priorities list that has been in existence for a couple of years. We haven't had any amendments. It's time to make some amendments. We sent the list out and asked people to give us amendments, each jurisdiction staff to give us amendments. We have 3 categories: priority, endorsed, and horizon. And we're not showing you the whole list. We're not showing you the changes that came out that are just revisions regarding project status or funding streams or studies. What we're showing you is what we'd like to agree on as amendments to our list. And next month, we'll show you the whole list with everything on it if you approve these amendments. If we can just quickly go through here. The I-25 managed lanes 120th to E470 is completed. We've had a suggestion to remove that from the list. The Sheridan Boulevard from US 36 to 88 is completed. Remove that from the list. Next slide, please. A new project for the priority list is Federal Boulevard. That's Westminster. Asking to replace this project with the one we just took off the list, which was Federal, which was Sheridan. And then Highway 52 came from Decono, and the original on Highway 52 did not include Well County Road 11, 15, 17, and 19, and they've asked to include those to their intersection improvements. And we already approved intersection improvements on 3, 5, 7, I think, and 9. So that's their request. Next slide, please. They want to, I think it's Thornton who would like to move from a endorsed project to a priority project, 104th Avenue, widening between Colorado Boulevard and US 85. So that's been requested to bump up from endorsed project to priority project. Next slide, please. Under the endorsed projects, 120th Avenue widening, and that's removed from the list. Construction is funded. Next slide, please. A new project from Thornton is McKay Road improvements between 112th Avenue and 96th Avenue. Under endorsed projects, these are projects that we don't put as a priority, but we give letters of support for, and we basically, NATA endorses the movement forward of these projects. Next project, please. Next slide. And then one more on the horizon, and that's ones that are studies that we're looking at, or we know that they're going to eventually bump up into endorsed and then probably priority, but this new project is Colorado Boulevard, 152nd Avenue to 168th, and that's Adams County. And those are the amendments that have been put forth by the jurisdictions and their transportation planning staff, and are up for approval today by NATA as amendments to our master projects list. Thank you. Oh, Julie, you're mute.
Thank you. Do I have any discussion around any comments or questions that people have around the master projects list? I see Anita has a question or comment.
Hi, it's kind of a question. I believe that the federal project was previously on the Horizon project list, and it just got bumped up. I think it was described as being a new project, but I believe it's been there and it's just been prioritized. Is that correct?
Yes,
and
it's a new project on the priority list. Yeah, but it's not a new project. It's just new to that designation.
Perfect. Thank you, Karen. And thank you for your work on this. This is great. And it's exciting to see how much we've accomplished. So.
Yeah, and kudos to Deborah Baskett, who put this list together originally and has worked very closely with us to update it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Deborah. And thank you for everyone on staff who helped make these changes. Are there any other questions or comments from this group?
We're going to need a motion to support.
Yep, not seeing any.
To approve.
Can I get a motion, please?
So moved. Anita
Second.
from Westminster.
Second, Joyce from Smart Commute.
Great, thank you, Joyce. All right, all in favor of these proposed amendments, please say aye.
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 Is there anyone against? Is there anyone against these amendments? Hearing none. Great, the motion passes. Karen, we have an updated projects list. All right, so we have just a few minutes to move on to the Can Do Colorado presentation.
Thank you.
Great.
And Sophie Schulman from CDOT is here to present that. Thank you, Sophie.
Yeah, no problem. And I'll go quickly and try to get everybody out of here as close to on time as possible. I'm happy to take any questions offline as well. And we have an email address set up that I think I've got linked somewhere here. So we can jump to the first slide. Actually, the second slide. Great. So I'm here to talk about a couple of upcoming grant programs, one of which has been officially released. That is the Revitalizing Main Streets program, which we released the application for last week. And this is around $4 million of funding that CDOT is putting into helping local communities repurpose public space to allow for social distancing in light of the COVID pandemic. And I think we're seeing a lot of really great examples of this across the state already of communities that are trying this out, that are experimenting with blocking off parts of the street for active transportation, for allowing economic activity on the public right of way. And, we think this is a really exciting opportunity to learn and take advantage of this situation and really provide more space for communities to move around in a healthy way. And especially, I think, providing access for folks that are essential workers that need to get to work, that are walking and biking because they don't want to necessarily take transit. We think that's a really core part of this as well. So if we can jump to the next slide. Sorry, if we can go to the next slide. Maybe it's delayed. There we go. Okay, so here's just a couple of examples. And this, if you read the application, it's pretty broad in terms of what we're being willing to consider in terms of things that are repurposing this public space. But some ideas, that we've seen across the state already include choosing certain streets for biking and pedestrian access. We've seen some locations where they're doing it, part-time. They're either doing it on a select weekend day or certain times of day. So there's definitely lots of different ways to look at this, and we're trying to be as flexible as possible in that. The grant application is available online at that link. And again, I hope these slides will be shared around, but if not, if you Google Can Do Challenge CDOT, you should be able to find that link with the grant application. There's an email address, which is dotcandoCDOT, which is a little bit of a mouthful, but happy to email me and I'll pass it along to answer any questions. We're doing these on a rolling basis, so that we can get the money out as quickly as possible. So as you email us your application, we'll try to get through it in the week or two after that and get you an answer as quickly as possible. So if we can jump to the next slide. There's another grant program that I'm going to quickly mention, which we are hoping to get the application out for this week. This one is really focused on providing micro grants up to $5,000 to encourage teleworking for those who can, to really work with communities to provide a tiny bit of extra capacity or support to really encourage, again, staying at home, being safer at home, and utilizing, again, creative ideas to encourage that. And so this one is also pretty broad, and you'll see, hopefully, again, the application up this week. If we can jump quickly to the last slide, I did want to touch on a final grant program, which is a little bit later this summer. And this one I know less about, but I will happily take questions back. Hopefully you guys have heard of this program before, but it was previously referred to as the Urban Arterials Program, and is now being called the Safer Main Streets Initiative. And, I think it dovetails nicely with some of the things we already talked about, but this had actually already been in the works before COVID. But really trying to figure out, what are the tools that we have as CDOT, and working very closely with our partners at DRCOG and Commissioner Stewart to really identify quick, simple, and relatively cost-effective ways to improve safety along our urban arterials. And again, there's a really nice nexus there between some of the bike and pedestrian safety issues that we were talking about in the Revitalizing Main Street program, but this, I think, will be more permanent fixes that we think can especially address some of our most dangerous corridors that go through our urban areas. If we can jump to the next slide. Again, going through this very quickly, and happy to take any questions via email and try to connect you to the right person if I can't answer it. But we are hoping to release this one in July. We do have, obviously, budget issues similar to many other folks, I'm sure, on the call, but we are still planning to move forward with this, at least with an initial funding bucket, and then we will, as we identify additional funding sources, we will take some of the waitlisted projects that we think are high quality and try to fund those with additional funds. So We've been working closely again with Dr. Cog to develop the notice of funding availability, and we expect that to be released very soon. Since July is only about a week away now, so that will happen very quickly. So that was the very quick overview of all of these grants. And again, if you guys want to wrap now, I'm happy to take questions offline or take whatever questions I can in the few minutes we have left.
Yeah, Sophie, if we could ask for questions to go to you, do you have your email address posted somewhere on your slides?
I will put it in the chat.
That would be fantastic. So anybody who has questions for Sophie, please reach out to her. I really want to appreciate you hanging on there till the very end and showing us these great opportunities. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm sorry that I had us going over here. So I do want to wrap up this. We are over time. And so I am going to ask Karen to announce the results of the poll that we had.
Thank you. The results of the vote is a tie vote between Anita Seitz and Julie Mullica. And we are suggesting that both names move forward unless we want to have a runoff vote. I know MCC presented 2 names. It wouldn't be unusual for us to do the same. So I'll leave that to the discretion of the board. We would use a nomination to say move 2 forward, or a movement to move 2 names forward, or a movement to do a runoff. And I'll leave that up to the board.
So move to move with 2 names.
Is that Steve?
Yes.
Second, Joyce from Smart Commute.
All right, so
All
I'm
in
gonna call.
favor?
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move forward with 2 names, and we'll make sure that those are communicated to Faith and Matt. Any further business for this group today, or any final comments that are quick? Okay, I'm sorry guys for running us over 6 minutes, but I do appreciate everyone's time, and I appreciate everyone's participation in today. If you do have any further questions or comments, please reach out to Karen or I, and we will happily address them. All right, other than that, that's all I got for today, folks. Thank you so much for coming. See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good job. Thank you, Catherine. Hi. Yeah.